Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Falsa. Let's talk some Warpets. Today we're launching another brand new series, Budget Builds. Alright, the idea behind this series is to build out the best pets for players who don't have a high or even unlimited budget. Look, it's pretty easy to tell you what the theoretical ideal Sapphire Faedrake is, with 8 slots, perfect stats, unlimited budget, and all the amber crystals in the world. But that's not this series. This series is for all the other players. Frankly, the majority of players who are free to play or low spenders, or maybe even mid spenders who can splurge on a pet or two, but they can't do that for all their pets and need a more budget friendly build for the good chunk of their pet stable. Alright, now you might think, okay, I know what the best build for Sapphire is. We're going to get the talent skill up there, add the amber skill so it can hit multiple targets, put the magic pet crit package on it, etc. And if I need a budget build, it'll just be the same thing, but instead of 2 or 3 star everything, I'll just 0 star or 1 star a couple things. Alright, but that's not accurate. The power build will outperform a budget build, provided you sufficiently invest into that power build. But a power build on the cheap, it doesn't work very well at all, right? And a budget build that expends the same order of resources as a power build on the cheap will actually perform substantially better. Alright, let me show you something to illustrate what I'm talking about. We're in the pet store, and since we're talking about a Sapphire today, we'll look at the magic skills. Now, a critical magic skill for the power pet damage build is Magic Fortune. And right now it's selling for just a shade under 24k coins on my server. Right, even if you take a look at the 0 star level, you're still looking at over 400 coins for a copy. Okay, but let's say we go the hero enhancement route. Now, something you might consider for the hero enhancement route is Light's Guidance. And even at the 2 star level, it's just a bit over 600 coins right now. Alright, even a free-to-play player is going to be able to afford that now and again. Right, how about a 1 star? Right, a 1 star is 120 coins. You can buy 3 1-star Light's Guidances for the single cost of a 0 star Magic Fortune. Okay, so the first budget build we're going to take a look at is a pet for a Thea Atheist Celestial March. Before we look at that pet, let's take a look at our heroes, just to better understand what they're trying to do and what synergies we can take advantage of. And we'll start with the Atheist. There are 2 things worth noting on an Atheist. First, his second skill, Eye of Insight. This is a rage generation mechanic. It's a 30% chance every normal attack to generate 60 rage. There's no internal cooldown here. More importantly is to take a look at its rage skill, Smite. It does single target damage with a max damage factor of 800. 800 is super low, particularly for single target. So Atheist will do rage skill damage, just not very much. Let's take a look at Thea. Thea's rage skill, as you know, gives her a shield, and if you have her awakened, it gives another shield to a nearby friendly legion, right? If you manage to awaken her, she ends up being an excellent support hero. The shield also gives her a bit of rage skill damage boost until the next rage skill anyway, so Atheist's wet paper bag attack gets just a tiny bit stronger. But important note here is this Thea Atheist March is going to do very little rage skill damage. Now her second and third skill are just some stats buffs, but let's take a look at her fourth skill. Alright, whenever she gains a shield, she gets a 10% attack boost, stacking up to 3 times. There's no time limit on this. This will last the entirety of combat, so you want to get this 30% attack boost up as quickly as you can. So let's take a look at her talent tree. And there's a few talents in particular I want you to pay attention to. Near the end of the support tree is Pick Me Up, which gives you 15 rage anytime you receive either healing or a shield. The ultimate talent of the support tree is either Flock of Blessings, which gives you some additional healing anytime you get any buff effect, or Punisher, which does damage to your target, damage factor 150, anytime you receive healing. Both of these can only be triggered once every 10 seconds. I think either choices are valid. It really comes down to, do you want even more synergy with your Flock of Blessings, or do you want a little bit more payoff on your synergy with Punisher? In my opinion, for the setup build we're discussing, Punisher is a bit better. You need a bit more payoff. You need a bit more damage. Okay, so what's the best pet for this March? If this is another video, I'd tell you to build a cracked out pet damage Sapphire, kind of like Xenophon here, maybe even a bit stronger than this. You know, attacking with Thea Atheist is like going into a pillow fight, and a strong Sapphire can make up some of the damage that you're lacking. But this is a budget builds video, so we're looking for something that's going to make our heroes a lot more effective at not quite the cost. Is there a right answer? Yeah, normally I'd tell you to go for the Shadow Faedrake. Its skill puts a debuff on the enemy that makes your Legion do more damage. But this is a new server. Are Shadow Drakes even available on new servers? I actually didn't know the answer to this. The Shadow was designed for Burt Tohar. Obviously, those heroes aren't available on brand new servers, but I guess it was possible that their pet already shows up. So I rolled a new character on the newest server in the game at the time of this recording. I leveled up a bit to make the scouts better, and I looked around. You know, I looked around for a couple hours. I could find no Shadow Faedrakes. Interestingly, I found all sorts of Shadow Manticores and Berserk Faedrakes. Those are pets that are added long after G1, but every other pet I found was the original G1 hero pets. I guess the Shadow Manticores and the Berserk Faedrakes, maybe they're just coded differently for some reason or whatever, right? My conclusion is the Shadow Faedrake isn't available right away on new servers, but it's kind of like trying to prove a negative. Like my evidence is I looked for a couple hours and didn't see one. Maybe I was just really unlucky. If you have different information, please let me know in the comments below. Okay, so if the Shadow's out, we're looking for a pet that will, 1, give us shields, 2, give us healing, 3, give us buffs generally, but it has the following constraints. First, it's got to fly, and second, it's got to be a G1 pet, or I guess a Berserk Faedrake or a Shadow Manticore. Well, the Shadow Manticore doesn't fly, so it's out, so yeah, it's got to be a G1 pet. Okay, you know, it might seem obvious at this point. Go for the Sapphire, right? The Sapphire flies, it does magic damage, what's not to love? Well, keep in mind we're not going to be doing anything to boost the Sapphire's damage output, so its damage is going to be very limited. Let's say we get the talent skill up to 1 star with a good intelligence. That's a damage factor about 150, and it's only going to be on a single target. It's not great, but it's not nothing, and there's no alternative, right? Actually, there is an alternative, the Golden Rock. Now, the Golden Rock is a physical damage pet, but remember it has 2 sides to its talent skill. It checks if your march has the Passion buff. That's the G1 and Li Shenyan Cav buff. And if you have it, it does physical damage to your target. If you don't have it, it gives you the Passion buff, which is a 5% rage generation buff for 5 seconds. Alright, 5% rage generation for 5 seconds isn't that amazing. But you know what it is? It's a buff. Alright, triggering all your other synergies. You can also pick up from the pet store Intense Exuberance, which gives you even more rage and heals you every time you cast an Exuberance. But you can even pick this up at a level 0 and it will give you some healing, triggering all those other sweet, sweet synergies. Alright, have I got your interest? Okay, well there's a couple things to consider here. First, pet attributes are not distributed evenly across the pet classes. Different pets have different range of attributes. For example, a Sapphire can get very high intelligence and spirit, whereas a Golden Rock cares more about strength and agility. The second thing to consider, and probably more importantly, the Golden Rock only has mid-range. That's Elk Rider range. If you're at very far range, that's mid-range, the Golden Rock is not going to trigger even that give yourself the Passion buff. It's not even going to check if you're any farther than mid-range. Now, if your target moves much closer into Elk Rider range or melee range, then the Golden Rocks will do its talent skill. So this is like a 40% of the time, it works every time kind of deal. Okay, so what's better? 150 damage factor or so every rage cycle, or extra rage generation, healing, and a bunch of synergy that comes from that, some of the time. I would suggest the Sapphire is probably marginally better. It costs time, not money, to level up its talent skill. You can get to 2 stars without that much work, and with a 2-star talent skill in the Sapphire with good intelligence, even with no support skills, you get the damage factor up to around 250. That doesn't sound amazing, but the real weakness of the Thea Atheist March just does no damage. So any help you can provide it doing damage is probably worth it. The other thing to probably keep in mind is that this March is really a rage generation machine. It's going to go through the rage cycle faster than practically any other mage mark, so that means the Sapphire will fire more often, so it's probably worth it, I think. Alright, so those are your choices. What skills should we put on this pet? Alright, so we start with the talent skill, obviously. If you go Golden Rock, add Intense Exuberance. If you have the Shadow Faedrake, add Follow-Up, even if it's a 0-star follow-up. Now, normally on magic-based hero enhancement build pets, we'd really be looking at things like Magic Pulse and Light's Guidance. They're not very good here, though, right? These are magic skill crit damage boosters, and neither Thea nor Atheist are giving you any magic crit. And more importantly, they're doing very little skill damage anyway. All right, these are not priorities for me. Sun Epiphany, on the other hand, is on plan. It will increase the magic attack of your legion by a percentage. It's not a huge percentage, but we'll take it, particularly with Celestials, as they have a higher base attack than other magic marches. So we want shields, let's put Heartwall in here. It's not a huge shield, but the proc is one that counts. We also want healing, so let's add Great Care too. Same story, it's not a lot of healing, but it's the proc that counts. For these skills, a 0-star skill is about 90% as good as the 2-star, so you can get very effective here very cheaply. Now there are 2 skills, Divine Blessing and Tranquility, which improves the effect of the healing on your pet. They're not worth it here. We have Great Care on here to proc. We do not have Great Care on here to provide a lot of healing. These skills are wasted on this pet. All right, after Great Care, if you have decent agility, let's add Outbursts of Rage. It does care about the star level, so if you can level it up as your budget allows, let's level up Outbursts of Rage. Okay, that gives us 5 or 6 skills. Now what? All right, if you have additional slots in your pet, you don't really have a lot of great choices remaining. You could throw on Light's Guidance with or without Magic Pulse, but you might get Intelligence locked at that point. You can also consider skills like Robust Body, Terra Barrier, Bristles, Poison Gland, or Shield Breaker. Pick something that your pet has a high attribute in if you got some skill slots to fill. All right, and that's your budget build. By way of comparison, let's take a look at a pretty standard pet damage build. For sake of comparison, let's just say we have 8 slots, and everything except for the Amber skills will be set to 2 stars. Obviously, the Amber skills are going to be 3 stars. Let's take a look at our build, and I'll set everything on our build to 2 stars here as well. Okay, now things are going to vary slightly, all right? Pet skill prices vary depending on servers, depending on time, and there's going to be some variation in the skills chosen. But here's the difference in cost between these 2 builds right now. And keep in mind, there are a number of skills in the budget build that can be easily left at 0 stars and still perform 90% or better as well. The pet damage build enjoys no such luxury. Hey, that's it, and thank you to everyone for stopping by. If you enjoyed this content or found it helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button. Remember, you can send me your Warpets if you'd like me to take a look or review them, and I will be featuring the strongest Warpets in the game right here on this channel. Look for more details in the description below, and until next time, stay classy, Belleron.